Hi, good evening. How are you? So can I call you Droppers person now? We are Droppers people, yeah? Okay. So it's our fifth wedding anniversary today. I asked lawyer man to come in and say hello, but he's a bit shy. So it's just going to be me and you talking. 5 years of marriage and 8 years of being together. And I just wanted to talk about my journey, my single parenthood leading up to my marriage to lawyer man. And so we met, and the first few weeks I would not see him, and he would call me and we'd be chatting. I'd be like, Ajai, can you see? Let me pop in to see you. And I'd be like, no, you can't pop in to see me, Ole, you'll see me. Or we'd be chatting and he'd be like, I'm on the Madeira Lola, or I'll be in your area tomorrow, let me just pop in and say hello to you. I'd be like, no, you can't. You see, the reason why I did this was that in the years that I was a lone parent, about how many years? Maybe about 5 years that I was a lone parent, I kind of had to reinvent myself, because as they say, insanity is doing the same thing and expecting will you stop that noise, Toby? And expecting a different result.
It's not me.
Every time. Okay, whoever it is, stop the noise. So insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And I realized that I was a bit of a pushover before. I was a doormat. And I also realized that if I was a man and I dated the previous me, I would also take that previous me for granted, because the previous me was just insecure and was just kind of desperate and miserable. So I decided that no, I'm not going to do that, because when you are miserable, you attract negativity to your life. So I tapped into my inner strength. I like Whitney Houston said, I didn't know the strength I had. And then I remembered how I'd been brought up to be confident, to be strong, to be assertive without being rude. And then I started, doing that for myself. And I stopped being desperate about being with somebody. Then I remembered that my happiness was not tied to anybody. My happiness comes from God and from me, myself. If you're alone, if you're a miserable single parent person, you'll be a miserable married person, really. So one of the things that I started doing was to respect myself, and to if I don't respect myself, how do I expect somebody to respect me? And one of the ways of earning my respect was to make sure that if a guy wanted to take me out, he couldn't just turn up at my doorstep. He couldn't just tell me he was in my area. Those were things that used to happen before, things that I did not like, but because I was such a timid person and I didn't want to hurt anybody, I wouldn't be able to say no. I remember some guy calling me around 11:30 p.m. to say he was in my area, and I really didn't want him to come, but because I felt bad that he came all the way from North London to Essex, I owed him that, to at least let him come in. He didn't spend the night because I finally thought, what are you doing? Are you at the craze? So he had to go, but I shouldn't even have let him come in at all. So those were things that I had to change. I had to be true to myself and realize that I couldn't continue to be a doormat and expect to be respected. So the first few weeks that lawyer man would want to come and see me, I'd say to him, no, you can't, because I deserve to have a man woo me properly. I deserve for us to book a date in advance, 1 week in advance, 2 weeks in advance, and for him to take his time, take me out for a meal, take me out to watch a film, take me out dancing or whatever, not just turn up on my doorstep and expect to spend the night or expect whatever. But anyway, I had stopped that turning up because I didn't want my son to see just any man coming in to see me. I didn't want that. And that's another thing, as a lone parents, we are kind of in a sensitive situation with society. I'm lucky that my single parenthood years excuse me, was in England, so there really wasn't much stigma, and I really didn't care if there was any stigma anyway. And my family, they're not like that, thankfully. My father, they didn't care about stigmatizing. My father cared about financial independence, because my mother had seven girls and one died in infancy. So my father had always been more concerned about us being financially independent, having good jobs and all that. So he wasn't really bothered about me being a lone parent. What he was bothered about was in me getting back on my feet and having a good job and having a good life and being able to afford whatever I wanted to get for myself and for my son. So I wasn't bothered about stigma, but I do know that a lot of lone parents in Nigeria are stigmatized, and then it becomes even worse if the kids are from different men. So I think that if you're a lone parent, you really owe it to yourself, and you owe it to your children to be extra careful. You don't want your children, well, I think this is my opinion, that you don't want your children growing up remembering that mommy had so many uncles coming round. I don't think that is a good memory for them. I'd rather my child remembers me as a strong, upstanding woman than as a woman who was a pushover and who had, you know, men in and out of her life anyhow. So yeah, I think that as a lone parent, you need to look inwards and look at where you had gone wrong. This is not a blame game. This is just about you reinventing yourself, being you, but a better version of yourself. Look at where you had gone wrong. Look at the places where you hadn't been assertive, and try being assertive. Then another thing that I did was that I took my mind off marriage entirely, and I just dated to have fun. I did online dating. I went out on my own. I went out for meals on my own. These are things that I used to do when before I met my ex, when I was in uni. I'd just go and watch films on my own. But I stopped doing that. So I started doing that again. I started, dating myself. I started taking care of myself, so that I regained my confidence, and I became assertive in being able to say, no, I will not be disrespected. We need to do that. We need to look inwards. We need to tap into our inner strength. We need to stop being a doormat if that is what you were before. You need to be assertive, because if you don't respect yourself, nobody will respect you. If you are not assertive, nobody's going to respect you. So travel, put marriage on the back burner, see life as half full instead of half empty. Concentrate on the positives, have fun with your kids, and then when you do date, make sure that this guy takes time to woo you. Don't let them date you casually and then, okay, this is a joke now. Before I clapped eye on Lawyer Man, I quickly went to MFM for 7-day deliverance. So you might want to do that as well. Anyway, so that is the story of my single parenthood life to my married life. It's been nice talking to you. I hope we'll do this more often. Take care. Bye.